Hello everybody, Matthew Armstrong here on day 45 of this life transformation program from mediocrity to mastery. Today is the final day of our financial freedom section of the book that we're doing. We're following the teachings of Dr. John Demartini in the values factor and reading directly from the book and doing the exercises. If this is the first training you've watched, then make sure after this one you go back and watch each one sequentially, and that's very important. And remember to purchase the book. You can purchase the book The Values Factor from drdemartini.com or Amazon or anywhere like that, right? Okay, so it's a pleasure to be speaking with you again this morning. I'm very late for the call. I know I'm very late this morning. If you came on live and you were disappointed, well, you know, don't be disappointed. Just look at it as an extra time for meditation or to sit there and do your exercises. Remember, you're never waiting. You're never waiting for anything. There's always something you can do in that time that is empowering, is going to be beneficial. You're never wasting time. You're never killing time. Always look to do something that is going to benefit you. So, yeah, very late this morning, so what you could do is you could just be completing your exercises, reading over things, looking at the previous one, meditating, whatever it is for you, I don't know. Somebody wrote in the comments a few days ago, said, you look very tired and sound very tired in this, the content is really great, but the delivery is not. I cannot get through this while listening to you, etc., etc. And I appreciate that. I do, because it does make me want to up my game a little bit more and think, okay, well, you know, if someone can't get through the training, then maybe I'm really going to look at that more. But at the same time, I make no excuses or apologies for that, because I'm doing this real time. I'm doing this live. I'm doing them early in the morning. I'm going through this this transformation as much as you are, right? I'm not going to put on an act. I made a decision quite a long time ago that I'm just going to be myself in the videos and trainings that I do. What I do is I put myself in state. I put myself in the most empowered state I can before doing a hangout, right? Before doing a training, before making a video. But at the same time, if I'm tired, I'm not going to pretend I'm not tired. I'm not going to put on a certain voice. I'm going to let myself come through, however that may be. And I think the majority of people will appreciate that more rather than me putting on an act every time I make a video or do a hangout. Instead, I just prefer to be myself, right? Whatever's going on. If I'm tired or if I've had a challenging day, I'll let you know about that, you know? And that's how I feel is the best way to move forward with everything that I do, right? As if you had come around to my house and you're sitting there in my living room with me, I'm just going to speak to you the same way as if the way I look at it is I'm speaking to a group of people sitting in my living room, right? This is not just like a one-on-one conversation, although it is a one-on-one conversation, me and you, but I'm looking at it like I'm sitting in my living room having a conversation with a group of people, and that's how I'm speaking. And so I'm not going to put on any special act or anything like that. I'm going to be myself. I want to be as inspiring as possible. I want to be as charismatic as possible, of course. But at the same time, I'm not going to pretend I'm really wide awake, really feeling great, if I'm not sometimes. And this is a very challenging time of year to do this challenge, because in the minute we're in August. I live in a holiday resort in Spain. Like, the place comes alive at nighttime. It's hot and sticky and humid. Virtually nobody, even children, don't go to bed before midnight around here. So I get up at 5 a.m. and then come in to do these trainings. But to get to sleep before midnight, even our son, he doesn't want to go to bed till about midnight. He's 2 years old. Can't put him to bed at this time of year. Last night it was just so hot and humid. I went out and slept on the balcony. There's parties going on everywhere. It was well after 2 o'clock before I got to sleep. 2:30 or something. So I'm getting maybe 3 hours sleep or something like that. Kind of broken sleep. Wake up and it's a bit dewy. I'm a bit wet, and that's just the way it is around here this time of year. It's not that I can just go to bed whenever I want and get to sleep. That's just not going to happen. I've got a young son. He's 2 years old. He's very strong-willed. He goes to bed whenever he wants to go to bed. You can't put him to bed. He'll scream the house down and climb up the walls and throw everything and whatever. Yeah. So some mornings I'm going to be extra tired. Sometimes I catch up on my sleep a bit. I get an afternoon siesta, and then that's cool. Yeah. But with that said, of course, I will do my best to deliver on this information, on this transformational information, to the best of my ability. So I do appreciate all comments, whether they be complaints or just observations or whatever. I really do appreciate all comments because it lets me see how other people are seeing me, and everybody matters, right? Everybody counts, no matter what they think, right? So the next section we're talking about in the book is spiritual values and building wealth, which is a really interesting one. If we have a confliction in beliefs about building wealth, if we believe we can only have one thing and not the other thing, then no matter how hard we seem to be trying, we'll be sabotaging ourselves because unconsciously we believe, oh, we can't have our spirit, we can't be spiritual and build wealth, because to be spiritual is to be deep, to build wealth is to be shallow. Sometimes we can have a conflicting beliefs like that in our brain that we're not even aware of, and so then we'll sabotage our success. Even if we've got all the resources, we've got all the tools, we have the system, we have we're like a motivated type of person, we're self-disciplined, we're intelligent, we learn the skills, but sometimes it's still not happening, right? And so sometimes we've got to look at our beliefs, our conflicting beliefs, our beliefs around our values. I saw a post on Facebook the other day. Somebody posted a photograph saying, something along the line of, don't give up your health for wealth. Something about health being more important or something like that. And to me, that just doesn't make any sense. To me, that's just a limiting belief, a very limiting belief where whoever created that post or whoever decides to repost that thinking, oh yeah, don't give up your health for wealth. Well, what's that got to do with it? Why would they be two separate things that that you can't have both? Why can't you have your health and wealth? Maybe health is wealth. If you look back at where wealth comes from, the word, it comes from well-being, right? Well-being. And so wealth is well-being. Well-being is very closely associated to health, right? So if a person has a belief that they can't be wealthy and be healthy at the same time, or to become wealthy they have to somehow give up their health or something, and their health is very high on their values, are they ever going to do it? More than likely not, right? More than likely not, because they're like, well, I don't want to get sick and die, so I just want to get wealthy. These are the belief systems, the limiting belief systems that we have to dissolve in our brain. We have to just dissolve those programs. break the programs, you know, install new ones, and just to look at it and question it, question the program. Well, how are these two connected, right? And see how, if you do value health very highly, see how creating more wealth in your life will actually magnify that value, not take away from it. Oh well, if I have more wealth, then I can buy more organic food. Yeah, like I can get the best quality food. I can get the best quality supplements. I can get the best wellness coach in the world. You know, I can have someone to hold me accountable, a coach I speak to every week and gives me little tips and gets me going. I can get a personal trainer. I can just not have the money worries, right? Because isn't that a big one that takes away people's health, is money worries? The stresses of not having enough money. Isn't that a huge contribution to people's health problems? Their money worries, their stresses, right? So what about when the money worries and stress get taken away? Won't that add more health to your life, to your body, to your mind, more ease? Think about that for a moment. And who says spirituality and wealth can't go together? You know, these are just ridiculous programs that we receive growing up. And when we really look at them, they're just completely absurd. Completely absurd. There's no sense in them whatsoever. But there are many people out there that think, I'm really deep and spiritual, and I'm really poor, and I'm really proud of that. Look at that wealthy person over there. How shallow must they be to put so much focus on creating wealth and neglect their spirituality? Huh. Glad I'm not like them, huh? Many people like that, right? Many people like that. On an unconscious level, I might have been a little bit like that myself once. Because I can see that. I can see it in others. I can see how I sabotaged myself in the past. Because I was a deep thinker, a philosopher, and used to go very deep into, well, still do, into spirituality and thinking about creation and the laws of the universe and things like that, connecting to the earth, and then seeing then looking at others and thinking, well, they must be shallow, right? They're putting all their attention on money and stuff and material objects and material possessions and making them more important. Just very limiting for me, very limiting. Why can't you have both? Well, of course you can have both, that's the thing. You can have both, right? They don't have to contradict each other. They really don't, and they don't contradict each other. It's only we make contradictions ourselves, right? So let's continue our reading because we have about 8 pages to read through here. And to be, I think I mentioned yesterday about being engaged in this hangout, in this training. I put myself in state. I go through a ritual before I start these trainings to ensure that I deliver the best I possibly can while still staying authentic by not going into actor mode, right? I trained in acting. I trained in Hollywood in acting. And something my acting teacher used to say, she was very, very good, was after I finished doing a performance, she'd say, Matthew, you acted up a storm. Meaning that it was obvious that I was acting. I wasn't being natural in the character, right? And so then I learned the difference between actual acting and being a natural actor, right? And where am I going with this? I don't know, but yeah, to be natural. To be natural, but at the same time, to be the best natural you can be, right? To be authentic, to be empowered, not to put on an act, right? Not to put on a front, but to show yourself who you really are and your vulnerability, right? Because when people show they're vulnerable, then people go, oh, there's the holes, and they start poking. Find the holes in the armor and start poking. But the person who's being vulnerable is actually being vulnerable on purpose. Because that's the best way to show up, right? Because many people go around with this front on, and you see it, this defense, and they shout from behind their defense. But they're always defending, right? Always got their defense up. But when you let that go and just speak from the heart and speak from the depths of your soul, then something else comes out, and many people can appreciate that. And that's what I invite you to do: to be more vulnerable, to be more authentic, and to flip back to at the start, before you start these trainings, is put yourself in a good state. Put yourself in an empowered state. Make yourself receptive to learning. Yeah, rather than being in judgmental or opinionated. You're okay. I'm in a learning mode now. I'm going to be receptive to learning. Yeah. Okay, great. So we're on page 273, and follow on. If you got your book, open it. Page 273. Spiritual values and building wealth. Too many people consider wealth building as somehow opposed to spiritual values. I couldn't disagree more. There is no contradiction between an interest in spiritual issues and a commitment to building wealth and well-being. In fact, the two are inseparable and can definitely reinforce each other. One of my most inspiring experiences linking the notion of wealth building with higher values took place at a seminar I once did in Seattle. A man came to my evening program and then afterward came up to me and asked for a consult. I agreed to see him the next morning at my hotel. When the man showed up, he was agitated and distressed. He was a tall, thin man in his late 30s who had his own clinic, where he did natural and spiritual healing. He had been in business for himself for about 10 years, and at this point he was $60,000 in debt. He and his wife were basically just scraping by from month to month. His wife had become deeply frustrated with the situation. She felt that their current income, they couldn't afford to take care of their family, and she was unwilling to raise her children in a financially unstable environment. She had grown up with an absent father and a struggling single mother, and she was adamant about not imposing a similar set of stresses upon her own children. So they were at an impasse. In fact, his wife was about to leave him, which is why he had been inspired to come to me in order to reconcile what he saw as these two warring goals: spiritual development and growing his healing business. The first thing we did was look at his hierarchy of values. Of course, they were all about metaphysics and spiritual healing, which made sense because he was certainly a metaphysically oriented guy. He was living in a fantasy that he was going to somehow get ahead financially doing what he was doing. But every time he would get extra money, instead of using it to build his business or wealth, he would buy metaphysical books or would go off to seminars on yoga, meditation, healing, and other topics of that nature. Of course, since we also attract people who challenge our highest values, he had married a woman who had become more and more practical and materialistic. This was the balance he needed to ground his idealistic and metaphysical outlook. When this became clear to me, I said, look, with your set of values, you are not going to get ahead business-wise or financially, because your highest values are going to dictate your business and financial destiny. And you're going to keep spending money on the metaphysical and spiritual healing studies that you currently truly value. So you could do one of two things here. Decide that you're willing to let go of your relationship because clearly your wife is not going to stay in this situation any longer. Or else adjust your highest values so that you can begin to finally build your business and wealth. Which would you love to do? The man said, I don't want to say goodbye to my wife. She means the world to me. And she's stuck by me all these years. And I think we can still have a beautiful family together. But I see that she's unfulfilled now, and I don't know how to fix things. Well, I told him, you're floundering business-wise, so we're going to sit down and identify all the potential benefits you might get from serving people, growing your business, and building wealth. And we're going to find out how creating financial freedom for yourself and your wife will help you fulfill your metaphysical or spiritual and healing needs. Oh no, he said, I've tried that. I've read books on business, and I know what they all say. And I don't disagree, but I just can't seem to follow them or stay focused on them. That's fine, I said. You don't need to worry about that. Now let's simply begin to adjust your hierarchy of values. So we started with just that basic question. What are the benefits of building a business that serves 8 ever greater numbers of people? Well, at first he was blank, just staring at me. It bores me, he said. I only have this business so I can do what I want to do. I said, let's look at how building and refining your healing business can serve you. For example, could building your business bring you more patients that you could share your metaphysical and spiritual teachings with? Oh, he said, well, that's a neat idea. Yes, I could do that. All right. Now, do you think you could build a social network out of your patients with whom you could also share your inspirations and your insights from your metaphysical studies? Would building a business help you build a network of that type? Why, yes, it would. So I continued, asking him this question until he had 75 answers for the question. And along the way, you could see an inner transformation taking place. His eyes started lighting up, and he began to get enthused. And he even started jotting down 1 or 2 ideas that were coming to him about ways that he could attract some new patients and deepen his ties with his current patients. Now I see I can do it, he exclaimed at one point. I never thought of it this way before. So then I asked him, how about saving and investing money? He said, I've always had an issue with saving money, I have to admit. Then let us break through that, I said. I could see that he had bought into a kind of Eastern mysticism that celebrated austerity as the only true spirituality. But spirit without matter is expressionless, just as matter without spirit is motionless. So I helped him revamp his thinking by linking the process of making saving and investing money to his spiritual quests. I wanted him to see the benefits of helping people spiritually by saving, investing money, and building wealth. For example, the more money he made, saved, and invested, the more money he would also have to invest in his spiritual studies and philanthropic activities. Once again, he began to get the idea. His eyes lit up, and he began coming up with his own ideas. So we moved on to the next question. I asked him how studying business could be of value to him, and how it could be of value to invest and build his wealth. I wanted to link wealth building and investment with the metaphysical values. So I started correlating investments with ecosystems and his metaphysical interests. I suggested that every time we build wealth, we go up in higher echelons of social contribution and spiritual awareness. So that when we've reached the highest echelon of social spiritual development, where nothing within us is missing, then we have the highest abundance. Then we're actually mastering our highest metaphysical or spiritual expression. I kept linking everything we were saying about money and wealth back to what he perceived his metaphysical mission to be. Next, I said, look, you say that you don't want to be a slave to money, but you actually are a slave to money because you're working for it and worrying about it most of the time. If you're saving and investing money, you'll get to the point where your money starts working for you and you will be its master. Then you won't have to worry about money so much and you'll no longer be a slave to it. I asked him to write down how having a vast fortune and true financial independence could actually serve his spiritual quest. We kept stacking up these links between growing his wealth and his highest values until he was really on fire with these new ideas. Finally, I asked him, what would happen if he built his business and accumulated wealth with the goal of contributing it to a cause, a spiritual cause of some kind, such as starting a metaphysical school or helping other spiritual teachers become viable or sustainable with their writing and their spiritual practice? That is when his eyes really lit up. Okay, he said, I got it. So by the end of this process, he had more than 100 reasons why various aspects of business and wealth building and investing would support his highest value of spiritual growth. I asked him to continue working on the linking exercise on his own, and he enthusiastically agreed. His wife came in toward the end of the exercise. She was tentative at first, but when she saw what he had done, she started weeping with appreciation and hugged him and said, I wish we had done this a decade ago, because now I see there are possibilities for you. Ironically, his wife was all ready to spend this new money she saw coming in on a better house and on other things for her family. But I told her if she was primarily focused on spending money, she was going to defeat the whole approach. I told her that before she could change her lifestyle, she had to make sure that the two of them were saving and investing and remaining current with their taxes, because otherwise they were right back in the same cycle. Only instead of spending money on his spiritual books, they were spending it on a house and a nursery school fees. Either way, though, they weren't going to build true or lasting wealth. To build true and lasting wealth, they had to focus on saving, not spending, investing, not lifestyling. It is wise to raise your lifestyle only when you can raise your savings and taxes at equal times and in equal amounts. They both understood what I was saying, and they left the hotel ready to make a fresh start. I heard from them a few months later. He had gotten out of debt pretty quickly, and a few months after that, he had grown his business by 50%. I heard from him about a year after that, when he felt that he was well on his way to having a thriving business and true financial freedom. And he's still pursuing his metaphysical quest because now he has linked his financial freedom to it. In fact, now he sees them as one and the same. Okay, take a quick break because we're gonna just motor on to the end of the chapter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5.5 pages. Let's do it. Yeah. Have a drink of water, a few deep breaths. Open up your chest, breathe deep. Ready? Let's go. Mistaken notions of altruism. If spiritual pursuits and wealth building can go hand in hand, what about altruism? Although I do believe in service, I am generally suspicious of the actions that many have unwisely called altruism. I consider that what is usually called altruism is most often a compensation for feelings of shame and guilt, and frequently prevent us from receiving the wealth that we might otherwise build or attract. Recently, I was working with a gentleman who was attempting to break through his blockage against receiving and holding on to money. No matter what he had tried to do, he didn't seem to be able to get ahead. In fact, he could barely even get by. This man was very bright, very intelligent, and very involved with charitable giving. He asked me if there was anything he could do to transform his relationship to money. Absolutely, I replied. I want you to write down a list in which you identify every single thing right up until today that you feel shame or guilt about. I want you to write down every time you feel you messed up, did something wrong, hurt somebody, or deserve blame of any kind. I knew that often when we minimize ourselves, it's because we feel shame and guilt for doing or not doing something that we misperceive to be more of a drawback than a benefit to other people. Although we actually have also simultaneously been of service to these same people, and perhaps frequently have been of great hidden service, we don't always remember or realize that. Instead, we hold on to our unconscious shame and guilt, which we keep buried deep inside. Any action or inaction that we haven't clear or balanced out by finding how to serve people can end up diminishing our image of ourselves deeply and unconsciously. So as compensation, we sometimes create the belief that altruism will make us feel better about ourselves. Instead of asking for fair and appropriate compensation for our services, which sets up a fair exchange within the socio-economic world that keeps products and services sustainably flowing. We give away our services because we are afraid to ask for money. Whenever we feel good, making a difference, but don't want to be compensated, it's likely that we're compensating for the shame and guilt of the past, or else that we have hidden agenda for the future. So I asked the man who approached me to write down every instance that was provoking his shame and guilt. I asked him to identify how the incidents he felt ashamed and guilty about served him and the people involved. Don't stop until you're truly grateful for whatever you did, I told him. Otherwise, you will be thinking you are giving away money for charitable purposes, but it will be partly be compensation for those buried feelings. In fact, the number one cause that keeps people from building wealth is guilt and shame. They don't feel worthy of receiving. They don't value themselves. And yet 99.9% of everything you have been beating yourself up about is because you haven't looked deep enough to see whatever you did, it was not a mistake. There were benefits to you and to the other people involved, which your guilt and your shame are keeping you from seeing. Meanwhile, your guilt and your shame are causing you to minimize yourself. And as you do, you automatically put wealth building lower and lower on the hierarchy of your values because you feel unworthy. You're unwilling to receive. And so you're simply spending your money on immediately gratifying consumables and giving other people your money instead of producing, saving, and investing. At the root of the problem is your effort to live by another person's values rather than your own, which means that even your altruistic service will not be fulfilling for you because your guilt and your shame keep you from feeling fulfilled. It's a vicious cycle because if you're not fulfilling your own highest values, you'll be compensating for that by immediate gratification and consumerism on the one hand, and by charitable works and altruism on the other. True service to the world is not giving to others out of guilt or shame or rescuing them from their presumed desperation. It is initiating fair exchange with others and not robbing them of dignity, responsibility, accountability, or productivity. It is seeding in them opportunities to grow their own lives and making them sustainable. The solution is to clear up your shame and guilt so that you can truly and more fully value yourself. Because when you value yourself, so will the world. Until you live by your highest values, you will likely not value yourself and feel your greatest self-worth. And until you value yourself and money, you will have a hard time holding on to it. Remember, money circulates through society from whoever values it least to whoever values it most. People who don't value it will have a hard time staying in business. They are the kind of people who lower their value to get a deal instead of adding their value to receive a fair and sustainable price. For example, when I first began my professional teaching career, I had difficulty asking for and receiving money for my services, as well as difficulty saving or investing anything that I received. But I soon realized that unless I valued my teaching, no one else would. I learned how important it was to value the ideas I was presenting and to value my service as a skilled teacher. Otherwise, my contribution to the world through my teaching would be lost. I also learned how important it was to value money in general. Otherwise, I would not be able to first survive and then thrive in the business world of inspired teaching. Every time I valued my ideas, my teaching and money, my business grew. Now I teach all over the world, and I have money working for me instead of me having to desperately work for money. This sheds an important light on the issue of so-called altruism. When I started teaching professionally, my lowered self-worth made me appear to be altruistic. In reality, though, I simply did not value myself as much, and as a result, I led my students and potential students to value me less as well. When I valued myself and my contribution correctly, I was able to bring my career into balance and to base my work on creating and maintaining true fair exchange. The irony is that some of the more common forms of altruism are false forms of service. If you really value humanity, you will care enough to figure out the needs and highest values of other people and find a way to fairly serve them, directly or indirectly. In turn, you will help them maintain fair exchange, because otherwise you can rob them of their dignity, fulfillment, and service. So it is wise to build a business that serves ever greater numbers of people by focusing on sustainable, fair exchange. Then it's also wise to refine and polish your business, making it as effective and efficient as possible so as to guarantee quality service for your customers or clients and maximize your company's profits. As you produce these profits, your effort and work will begin to pay off and ultimately serve everyone involved. Yourself, your employees, your customers, and your local and global economy. What some so-called altruists may not realize is that fairly exchanged business is one of the highest forms of service. Running a successful business means that you value people enough to make your company as effective as possible so that you can keep your costs down to compete in the marketplace, which means that you're providing a service at fair cost. You care enough about your employees to make sure their job duties are effective and competitive in the global market, ensuring that your work is in an honored and respected business with cutting-edge methods, all of which make their professional lives more fulfilling in both the short and the long run. And you care enough about yourself to extract enough surplus value out of your labor force so that you receive a profit that gives you enough of a cushion to stabilize the volatilities of your company so that you can continue to grow, serve, and awaken your own and others' financial freedom. This is really, I'm getting this on a whole other level. Even though I've read this through this like 3 to 4 times, I'm getting on a whole other level right now as I'm reading it to you. Your highest values are the key. When I was conducting the Breakthrough Experience in Los Angeles a couple of years ago, a woman came up to me at the end of it and said, "Dr. Demartini, I have one more question that I was afraid to ask during the program. I have been in business for many years and I am just afraid that my business has plateaued. I can't seem to get over this hump. My overhead is going up while my profit margins are going down. Is there anything you can do to help me with that?" I said, "Sure. What is the most valuable thing in your life?" She said, "My daughter." I walked up to her 19-year-old daughter who had just come to pick up her mom and said, "Would you please follow me?" I walked her about 60 feet away from her mother who said, "Dr. Demartini, where are you going?" I said, "I'm taking your daughter." "Didn't you say that it's the most important thing in your life?" "She is." I said, "I'm taking her and you will never see her again. Until you have $500,000 and your business is double its present size and making greater profits." I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "If you don't do this in the next 3 months, your daughter will die." Even though at first she could hardly imagine that I was serious, somehow for just a moment my Al Pacino act got through to her and she believed me. So I kept going. I said, "The only way to save your daughter's life and get your daughter back is to get $500,000. And you can't borrow it, you can't steal it, and you can't have it given to you. You have to go and double the size of your business and make $500,000 in profits for savings. And you've got 3 months to do it. If you knew your daughter was going to die and was never going to be seen again, could you do that? Absolutely, she said. Nothing would stop me. So I asked her, what went through your mind as I did that? She said, Dr. Demartini, this has been amazing. As you were saying that my daughter would die, my mind thought of a series of different actions I could do immediately to generate more clients and money in my business. So there is your proof. As Napoleon Hill, author of the groundbreaking book, Think and Grow Rich, has told us, if you have a burning desire to do something, and it is the highest value in your life, nobody will have to motivate you. You will just automatically come up with creative ways of doing it. When the why is big enough, the hows take care of themselves. So to amass wealth, you have to truly value building wealth. In addition to clearing out the guilt and the shame, you need to write down 1,200 reasons why you want to build a business that fairly serves the public and why you want to build your wealth. Until your brain has so many reasons that, like that lady, you can't imagine doing anything but getting your desired outcome. And then you will build wealth, grow your financial freedom, and lay down another foundation stone for fulfilling an inspired life. That again is the power of applying the values factor. So that's why I wanted to get through that chapter there, because that end portion is just so powerful, and I wanted to get it in one chunk there for you. So you can watch that over and over again and get it on every deeper level, and also read through the book and read it over and over again as well. Because that you read that and then you complete those exercises, writing down those reasons why building a business serving ever greater numbers of people with fair exchange is going to help you, help the world, help everybody else, right? And when you do that, then it will make enough links in your brain to neuroplastically transform your brain to create your desired outcomes in life. Make sense? That's awesome. It's been great speaking with you again today. If you're looking for a vehicle to create financial freedom, then you want to click on the link below this. And by now, you know that I am someone that you can rely on and trust what I'm saying. And so this is a phenomenal financial freedom vehicle where you'll learn everything you need to learn to create the financial freedom you're looking for in your life. So you can click on the link below, enter your details, and receive information on that. Or if you just want to get on my subscriber list and receive regular updates, then please click on the link below and enter your details, and then you'll receive regular updates from me on various things that are happening as well. As always, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I shall see you again tomorrow. Make it a great day. See you then.